What's good, everyone? This is Raw Truth Media, giving you the raw content that you deservedly need. Please like and share this video throughout all social media platforms. And today we're going to talk about the keys to the game. I'm going to tell you what both sides need to do to get a victory. And I think it's only fair to talk about the pros and cons between this matchup of Jackson State versus FAMU. This is going to be a big matchup, just like it was the past 2 years. Now, even though the SWAC has improved, this game can change a lot. Whoever wins or loses this matchup, you never know what can happen. Even if FAMU wins or Jackson State win, you don't want to be the team that loses this game and depending on them to lose more than one conference championship game. That's going to be very difficult to do. So I'm going to start with FAMU. Now, it's going to sound like a recurring thing that I usually say about FAMU and their offense, but Jeremy Musa, as you all know, does not have Xavier Smith anymore. Xavier Smith's in the NFL, so hopefully he can spread the ball around. He has a slew of talented receivers in David Mango, who is their tallest receiver at 6'3", and then you have Jamari Shepard. Jamari Shepard's from the crib. He's from H-Town. Shout out to that brother. And Marcus Riley, who is a transfer from Bethune-Cookman. You have all these receivers. You have Kamar Young, the athletic tight end. Distribute the ball. Distribute the ball. If Jeremy Musa can do that, not telegraph, and have his passes within 65%, who knows what could happen in this game. Now, that Jackson State D-line is tough, so you have to get the ball out quickly. They have talented running backs, Kevin Dean, Jaquez Yant, and Terrell Jennings. They're big, strong backs. I don't know why FAMU barely used them last year. They tried to, it just didn't amount to anything. Luckily, their offensive line somewhat revamped. They added Cardell Thomas. And you add the returning offensive line, that bolsters things. But keep it balanced. If you're FAMU and let's say Jackson State scores first, you need to have resiliency. See, last year, when Jackson State capitalized on turnovers, field position, the players looked down, and then when the game got out of hand, let's be honest, they kind of gave up. But the matchup between Cardell Jones with Jeremiah Williams and Devontae Davis and crew, whoever wins that battle in the trenches will win that game. I firmly believe that. Looking at the South Carolina State game, and I know some fans were saying, well, their running backs had such and such yards. I don't know if people really watched the fourth quarter. Those are stat-padded yards. South Carolina State couldn't get anything. And the running back that they had, South Carolina State, the freshman running back, 22, who I believe is going to be really well, once they adjusted to him and saw his running style, then he wasn't getting those 4 to 5 yards per carry. They shut that down. But the fourth quarter is where South Carolina State was able to get a lot of yards. It's pretty obvious that the defense called it home of Jackson State, and rightfully so, because they're trying to prepare for FAMU, and they didn't show too much. Speaking of FAMU, do not go by what Jackson State was doing. I know they ran a 3-3-5, but Jackson State's defense is a multiple defense. So they could disguise their defense in so many ways. They could have it look at like a 3-3-5 and turn it to a 4-2-5. Their ends and linebackers are interchangeable. They have good mass strength on them. They can cover a bit, the linebackers. They're really good at run fits. So expect the defensive coordinator, Jonathan Bradley, to whip up something creative. I assume, and I'm just saying I assume Willie Simmons is already hipped on it. I believe Willie Simmons is watching film of each coaching staff's prior stints of joining Jackson State to get a feel of what they actually do. He's going to do the same thing with Coach Maurice Harris's offense. He's going to look at Maurice Harris when he was at Liberty, when he was at Ole Miss, etc. He's not going to look at the South Carolina State game because even he knew, just like all of us, that that's not even close to Maurice Harris's full playbook, which is scary for the SWAC. Now, for the defense, Famu, it's going to be really tough. And shout out to Ken, Clark, and Zoe because they talked about it on their channel, as well as Tomorrow Lee Sports Network. Subscribe to those brothers' channels, by the way. They mentioned the tight ends and how the tight ends with DJ Stevenson and Jency Riley is tough to guard. Because if you have, meaning FAMU, your top linebacker on them, then another tight end will be free, I believe. So, example, if they have Isaiah Major on an island, you don't want that to happen because that opens up the run game. And there's been an update. J.D. Martin, I believe, is out for a couple weeks. So Irv Mulligan is going to be the full-time starter. And I thought he was going to be the starter anyway because he just looks like a beast. So it's really important for FAMU to rely on their experience on defense. Isaiah Majors is, I believe, the leader of the team. The corners are definitely not going to play as far back, just like South Carolina State, but you don't want to be that close because Seven McGee's returning. You know, there was a wise DB coach that once said, you don't want to overcrowd too much space in coverage, especially when there's speed. Everyone's talking about challenge the Jackson State defense will bump a run the whole time. No, you don't want to do it the whole time. You want to have mixed coverage between man and zone. That's how you play a team like Jackson State. So I'm looking forward to the matchups with Rico Powers against Kendall Bowler and Winsome Frazier, you know, those talented corners. Look out for, Kamani King at nickel, guarding the slot. It's going to be some intriguing matchups between offense and defense of Jackson State and FAMU. And then the defensive trenches, Gentle Hunt, remember that name? These players are going to be looking to make a name for themselves. FAMU is actually favored in this game. And FAMU, you have the option as a player. What mindset do you want? Do you want to be the hunter or do you want to be the hunted? That's something I would tell the players or ask the players if I'm Willie Simmons. Who knows? He's probably asking them before the game. But this is looking on paper, looking at the roster, depth, and the two deep talent. This is FAMU's most talented team in a long time. I don't know since when, but more than a decade or so. You look at that running back, receiver, O-line that returns and then added some pieces. D-line that's stout, DBs. So this is going to be a great display of talent this Sunday. Now to Jackson State. One of the important things about JSU is ball security. And like last week, you can't have the ill-advised turnovers, the fumbles from the running back and wide receiver J.D. Martin, who had a history of fumbling the ball here and there. Very talented, though. J.D. Martin, by the way, announced that he's out a couple weeks. I hope it's a speedy recovery. I think it's 5 weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong, family. So Irv Mulligan is assumed to get a lot of the carries. And you saw how good Irv Mulligan is. He's battle tested, played in a tough conference, played for a team in Wofford that had a bunch of money games. You probably seen his team on ESPN Plus a bunch of times last season. Came from a school that ran a triple option. And I could tell, man, when the inside counter runs, he's tough to tackle. He's looking like mini beast mode out there. That should be helpful for JSU. Receivers, hold on to the ball. I don't need y'all doing that chicken winging, Shout out to Shadir Sanders, but that's what he would do last year is chicken wing the ball and not have it high and tight. That's what you got to do as a skill player to hold the ball. It's fundamentals, and it's correctable. I don't think it would be a recurring thing with them. It's just something that they need to clean up because they got to win the turnover battle against this FAMU team. This FAMU team is going to be desperate. They're going to be trying to jeer that ball loose. They're going to punch at the ball. They're going to swipe at the ball. They're going to do everything possible to make Jackson State turn over the ball. I'd be surprised if TC's not doing the tackling circle. He's probably doing that all day, every day, and I don't blame him because you cannot lose the turnover battle. You got to make the opposing team turn over the ball, and you got to prevent yourself from turning over the ball. Now, it may sound like some cliche-ish, but that's the keys to the game. That's the keys of winning. For offense, consistency on the routes. Don't stop on the routes. There were a lot of times where you know that Jason Brown has a strong arm, where a receiver would not run the full speed of it, or a running back will miss a catch here and there on a wheel route. Make sure that's sure up because number 4, man, he's got the arm strength to get it to you. You just got to be there. Now, is there times where Jason Brown will overshoot the ball? Here and there. It wasn't that bad. He only had, 4 incompletions. So the arm talent is there for him. Seven McGee is expected to be back. He's going to be a weapon. And FAMU, like I said, for your breakdown, don't try to bump and run all the time. You got to mix coverages because if you try to bump and run him and he gets loose, that's touchdown. I've talked to many people. They say Seven McGee is that guy. Seven McGee is a man amongst boys in regards to finesse and speed, man. He's hard to tackle. He's quick as hell. And Jackson State with Maurice Harris offense, he's going to put him all the way around the field. He's going to make sure that Seven McGee's involved. For the offensive line so far has improved so much. Shout out to Jason, I hope I said his name right, Onyebuga. He has this offensive line playing sound, strong football. And Evan Henry, if you're listening to this video, you probably have before. This is another matchup where if you do your thing against that FAMU defensive line, that just improves your stock. You never know. He may be one of those players drafted. I've been very impressed with Evan Henry. His experience, knowing where to go. Shout out to Kirk Floyd Jr. Jackson State has a bunch of veterans on that offensive line mixed in with some transfer players. They're playing as one. They're a lot stronger. They have added good weight on them. And I just can't wait to see what they do against that FAMU defensive line. Trust your technique. Limit the penalties. They haven't been having no false starts or procedure penalties so far. So far, that is. So keep that up. Keep doing what you're doing. The tight ends, I expect them to be utilized more with DJ Stevens and Jincy Riley. it may be more of a dose of those two. Because if the corners of FAMU is just going to bump and run all day, make them pay. Make them pay. And it's hard to stop a tight end that runs 4.5, almost 4.4 in Jesse Riley. But there's a lot of receivers on this Jackson State team. Andre Hunt is a speedster. You got underclassmen contributing at the wide receiver position. This is truly remarkable. I'm really impressed with the skill set with this Jackson State team on offense. You don't know who can be the leading receiver as of right now. As you know, Mr. Reliable, I like to call it, Rico Powers is the leading receiver. Rico Powers, keep doing what you're doing. One of the most underrated receivers in the SWAC. He gets no respect. And it's crazy because every game he stands out. Because it's not about just speed. Route running is important too. The one thing I'm excited about is the wide receivers are continuing to excel. And I believe receivers like I just named, Rico Powers, Duke Miller, who came from New Mexico, has a lot of promise. Just a bunch of weapons. I mentioned Seven McGee. Isaiah Kendall, who I believe will be showcased more this season. Isaiah Spencer, they're both named Isaiah, by the way, who had 5 catches for 65 yards. Very talented freshman. I mean, I could go all day. Brandon Johnson. There's weapons on this team. Hayden Hagler, who can start for a lot of SWAC schools. He's the 3rd tight end. It's weapons galore. Jonas Forteling, 6'5" wide receiver. Kobe Paul. Man, what I'm trying to tell y'all about Maurice Harris. A lot of folks didn't listen to a lot of us when we mentioned how good he is as an offensive coordinator, and now you see. He is tough to outcoach. And shout out to T.C. Taylor. T.C. Taylor is an X's and O's coach. He's involved in the run game. He's involved in the pregame warm-ups, everything. He's detailed in, and that's the difference. Now, I'm not going to have some prediction like, oh, Jackson State's going to go undefeated. I don't know what their record's going to be, but they're promising. In conclusion, this game between Jackson State and FAMU is going to be very fun to watch. I'm so entertained. I'm glad it's on ESPN, not ESPN 3, 2, and all those other sites. It's on the main site for everyone to see. This is what HBCU is all about. But yeah, shout out to all HBCUs. I hope everyone enjoys this weekend. It's going to be a lot of great football. Let me know how this game is going to be in the comment section. This is Raw Truth Media, and I'm out.